Hello, everybody. I am Lauren Weinberg. I am the Becoming Coach, psychologist turned women's empowerment and well-being coach.
Hi, and I'm Melanie McLeod, and I am a certified empowerment coach, and I specialize in entrepreneur business coaching. And welcome to Talking Transformation Live.
Where it is always real talk in real time for real people. And that's us, because we're real people, and that's you, because you're real people too. Hey, Melanie, how are you?
Hey, Lauren, I'm good. How are you doing? And welcome, Jaya. Good to see you. And anyone else that's joining us today, please don't be shy. I've talked to lots of people who said they're tuning in, but they really just haven't chatted with us yet. So we're hoping that you'll get comfortable enough to jump in and join in the conversation.
Because that's why we do it, and that's why we're doing it live, is because we really want your voice as part of the conversation. So I know Jaya's here. It's so nice to have you here too, Jaya, and feel free to jump in and give us your 2 cents. We'd really love to hear from you. So today we're talking about something that I think is kind of really apropos given what it is that we are doing here, showing up in this space, live, unscripted, just as ourselves having these conversations. We're talking about authenticity.
I love that topic, authenticity, because it's almost a buzzword. Everyone says, I want to live my authentic life. Okay, so what does that mean? What does that look like? What does that feel like? What is it? What is authenticity?
And I love that you said it's like a buzzword, because it is one of those words that's catching on even in the business world. Like, something's finally arrived when they're talking about it in the corporate world as well. And authenticity, I think, it's a concept that, as a psychologist, I learned a lot about. I mean, this sounds so funny. I actually typed this earlier and I started cracking up. They trained us to be authentic. It
Yes,
sounds,
here's are all the steps that you need to take to be authentic.
but in truth, I don't know that we're really taught about how to do that. It feels like something that should just be, if it's authentic, it should just be natural and it should just come to you. But much like everything else in this world, we get conflicting messages. And, there was a reason they had to train us to be authentic. It's because a lot of the messages that we get is to not really like show all your cards. A lot of people who believe in like playing it close to the vest and not showing all of who you are. And that, stops you from really being authentic.
I agree. I tell you, a long time ago, I was accompanying a family member to a cardiologist, and this man was just had credentials galore, very well respected. And the conversations I always had with him, he was just always very stoic and just okay. And he was a nice man, but there was no emotion, nothing. And one time I ended up in the room with him, and I think I saw a train or something on his desk, and I said something about the train. And this man just lit up. His eyes lit up, his face lit up, and he started telling me about these trains. And he was just a different person. I couldn't even believe I'm talking to the same person. And he's saying, if I could have been anything in the world, I wanted to be a train conductor. And he said, but my family had other plans for me. They
Wow.
knew, they had already determined that he was going to be a doctor. He was going to be, if he didn't have any choice in the matter. But he said, if I could be anything, I'd be a train conductor. And he was so lit up. And then after a few minutes of talking, he had to go back to doctor mode, and boom, he went right back into his stoic, not smiling, no eyes lighting up, just back to
Wow.
business. But it was amazing to see that joy and passion that he connected to. And to me, that is real authenticity. Not that he wasn't authentic as a doctor, he was a reputable doctor and he was very good at it, but he had the authentic joy when he talked about this other profession.
Right. So, what is that elusive thing? What is this authenticity? I mean, to me, authenticity is when, like, what you say that you are and what you actually do is in line with each other. That there is a genuineness, and like, sort of like how diamonds or something could be authentic or inauthentic. Like, what you see is what you get. Like, what you're claiming it is how you're showing up.
Mhm.
And I heard so many stories um, from people during COVID, having to do with, maybe because they felt like people were in their space more, it was more intimate through Zoom or something, but they were putting on like a facade, in the Zoom backgrounds and all, like putting up this facade of not matching, not showing. Maybe there's like a lack of transparency about showing who you are and how you're really showing up in the world.
Yeah. And I think that more and more we're starting to see people, especially when we talk about men. Men were never going to cry on TV, and now to be able to see men, be able to just be
Mhm.
themselves and show, you know, pain or fear or sadness, and not have to apologize for it. Everyone has different belief systems, so people who are not open-minded, what is the solution? Everyone is different. That's a really good point that Jai is bringing up, is the fact that sometimes you don't you fear saying what you really think because of how people might react to it, because a lot of people are not open-minded. So what are some tips and things that we could offer people around that?
Well, you know what? I think that, first of all, it's important to know that there's two. I'm actually thinking of two things, Jaya. There's two sides to that. One is it's important to be you, and not everybody might like that, right? It's not my goal to be liked by everybody. I need to be respectful to everybody, and I need to respect other people's belief system and point of view. But that's just like an opportunity to have conversation. You may share an opinion that's not popular, but if it's you, if it's authentically you and it's what you believe and you live that, then that's your truth. And depending on the situation, we might filter to some extent depending on the appropriateness of what it is that we're sharing in a situation. I mean, there are certain things that you might truly hold to be true. You might do certain things in your own leisure time that's not appropriate to talk about in the work center. It doesn't mean that you have to show up with your whole exact self all the time, but
Yeah.
you shouldn't be like one person in one space and another in another space. And I think that's where the authenticity comes in. I remember somebody shared a story with me that at church they knew somebody who was this beautiful, giving human at church. He would always be the first to step up and offer to help. I mean, he was really lovely. And then in business, it was well known that he would take advantage of people. And like, you just can't reconcile that, right? That's a character issue. Like, not keeping like being authentic, being honest in one of those situations. And the problem is it leaves you guessing which situation is the real him. Is it that he really swindles people and he's just putting on a front at church? Or is he truly who he is at church, but in business, maybe he feels like he has to act a certain way?
And I
So
like the way you said that, because that's the first thing that came to mind for me is should. I talk a lot about the shitting on folks. A lot of us feel like we should do something in order to be accepted in a certain environment or in a certain situation. And so we even confuse ourselves on who we are, because we feel like we're supposed to do what we should do. And so in this scenario, I need to be this person. And in this scenario, I need to be this person. And so I think oftentimes, and I think I've been guilty of it too, that I've spent so many years in environments where it was appropriate to be a certain way or to act a certain way. And I think that for me, it's not that um, I need to change who I am, but sometimes I need to change who I'm around because I need to be in an environment that embraces me for who I am. I need to put myself into situations that allows me to be authentic, that I don't have to feel I'm fake and phony.
So that's interesting. So you're not, that's interesting because it does sort of get to that heart of will I be accepted? And I think that that's often a reason why people aren't authentic, right? They're afraid of, they have like a fear of being rejected when they
Yeah.
show their true selves. And so it does mean that sometimes you pick and choose an environment that you know where you're spending your time. Jaya agrees. She's got it. Or we've got it. Somebody's got it. But you know that it reminds me that you know that clash of values, that if people are working someplace where the company's culture is really not matching their authentic values,
Yeah.
that's a recipe for unhappiness.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And it is hard to then show up as your authentic self if you feel like you're going to constantly come up against a wall or get pushback for that.
Yes. And I tell people all the time, when you're looking for a job, you're not just looking for the first person who is going to hire you. You need to be researching them and investigating them and understanding what their values are, their code of ethics in that organization. What's important to them? How do they treat their employees? Because if you don't interview them, then you're going into a corporate culture that's against who you are. You're never going to be happy there.
Absolutely. And it's great, you know, because I have these kids who are kind of going through all this stuff now. So I get to sort of see it all happen in real time. And my daughter is lucky enough to land in a corporation that is so in alignment with her values and encourages her to show up as her true self, to really show up as exactly who she is. And in fact, she was just asked to like write this whole little summary of who she is and share it with her company. They ask all these questions, and she didn't particularly care for that exercise, but they are saying show up as your true self. We are here to embrace you. And my son was in a culture that wasn't quite like that. And it's so interesting to see it in real time. And also, she shared with me recently, my daughter, that she feels like in, you know, you have different groups of friends, right? And especially when you're a young person, you might have different groups that you hang out with from different reasons. That she feels like she's always the same no matter who she's with. And her friends have even commented on that, saying it's great that you just can be yourself because they often feel like they need to change their behavior to fit in with a group.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I did it. I worked in corporate for many years. And, I played the game and I did what I was supposed to do. And I acted the way I needed to act in order to be taken seriously and get the promotions and all of those things. But I can tell you that, moving out of that environment was the healthiest thing for me
Mhm.
because I got to find that there are people like me, in entrepreneurship and in academia. I found people that we can all authentically be ourselves because we're like-minded. And so it's really, when you're younger, especially, you sometimes think that you don't have a choice. You think that, well, you have to do this because that's what it's going to take to make the money you want and to do the things you want. And that's where I think all the things we talk about each week is in transforming who we are and being able to say that, that's not true. I used to think it was true, but I don't believe that. I believe if you do what you love, the money will come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, there's so many ramifications to showing up as your true self, which is, again, I think what we're trying to do here, right? Just be ourselves. If people were to bump into us and meet us and sit down and have a cup of coffee with us, like what you see is what you get. You
That's
know, like you're getting to
it.
know us. You come and see us every week. We are who we are, and, you know,
Absolutely.
unapologetically so. And I think that you know what that does is it helps to build trust, right? It helps to like know that what you see is what you get. It makes you feel that you can then also open up and share with somebody because you know that they are they are being genuine, they are being truly themselves, I think makes a big difference,
Yeah,
right?
I agree with that. I had a situation many years ago that I really didn't realize that I came across the way that I did. And I
Mm.
was in a social situation one time, and someone had bought me a glass of wine, and I hadn't drinking the wine at all. I was just relaxed because I was in a social situation. And we were laughing and talking, and someone says, "I like you so much better when you drink, because you're so much more fun." And I'm thinking to myself, but I didn't drink anything. And then I realized that I acted differently in professional situations than I did in social situations, because that's what I thought I had to do. And it's really nice, I can tell you, to just be relaxed, just be yourself. I mean, you don't, yes, there's slight differences in professional situations, but you shouldn't be a completely different person.
Yes. Yeah. So, there are so many reasons why people do hide their true selves. And we talked already about, fear of rejection. We talked about those messages that you might get even growing up or from society, that you don't show all your cards, that you hold something back, that's self-protective in a way, or somehow that gives you an upper hand. But I think another reason is that we compare ourselves to others so much.
Yeah,
Right. And I think that that's a really important issue, because I think that shows up at work a lot, that you're trying to say, am I as good as somebody else? Or, you're judging yourself against somebody else's behavior. You're trying to emulate somebody else. And there's nothing wrong with like trying on, if somebody's outgoing and you want to try to be more outgoing. There's nothing wrong with trying on something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone. But making sure that you're not doing things that are not in line with what you think is valuable is so important. And when we compare ourselves to other people and find ourselves wanting, we might start acting in a certain way that is out of alignment with what we think is important.
absolutely. So for me, I think that being authentic is about it feeling right. That it feels comfortable, that I feel happy naturally. When I talk about that doctor who just lit up, he was just so, when he got comfortable in something that he loves, all of that joy was just natural. It wasn't something that you had to think about being happy. Oh, I think I'm supposed to be happy now. It was just when you feel good about who you are and what you're doing in your life,
Yeah.
every day feels right.
And that just, speaks to like the number one thing that you can do to bring your authentic self with you wherever you go is to just know yourself, right? Yeah, feeling right. Love it. Jaya loves that comment, right? Just be in ease, be in flow. Like life just shouldn't be a struggle. Believe it or not, it doesn't have to be a struggle. And that's a belief, right? Some people think it has to be
It has
hard.
to be hard, yeah. And that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. That it's like something's wrong because this is not hard. No, it doesn't have to be hard.
And that's your first clue when something feels hard and you're pushing against and struggling against something. That's how you know that you're out of alignment. That's one of the reasons I didn't go back to becoming a psychologist when I was going back to work. I didn't go back to that. That was not in alignment with who I truly am. And you could say coaching and therapy is so similar, but the focus is so different.
Very different.
And that like helping people get into their strengths, helping people look forward, imagine the possibilities, open all of that up and move forward, take those steps. That's what feels authentic to me. And
Absolutely.
like when I would think about going back to doing therapy, I feel like the doctor that you've been talking about, like, I would feel my body language change. I would feel a heaviness. And it wasn't that lightness that you're talking about, just feeling in flow with like what's right for me.
Absolutely. So if you're watching this, want to make some comments, we'd love to hear from you. We are going to be back again, same time, same place.
Yeah. Is our time up already? Oh my gosh, we've been talking about this one a long time. I didn't even get to our list of all the different ways that you could practice being authentic. So you know what? I'm going to drop those in the comment section. So hopefully people who are listening, you can feel free to, read the tips that I've got to share. And I'm sure Melanie might drop something in the comment section. And we'd love to hear your comments. What is it that helps you feel authentic? What are your first clues that you might be in a situation that's not where you can't or feel like you can't show your authentic self? How do you feel
Yeah,
when you're not showing up as your authentic self?
agreed. And if we hear enough from enough of you, we can continue this. We can always have a part two to this topic.
Authenticity part 2. I love it. Jaya, thank you for showing up with us live. Thank you for your comments, and you are very welcome. We're so happy to be here. So join us, again, Mondays at 5 Eastern. We are talking transformation live. We'd love you to join our conversations about change. Please subscribe. You want to tell them where to find us, Melanie?
So you can reach out to us anytime. Our email is talkingtransformationlive@gmail.com, or you can reach either one of us at our respective websites. And Lauren has her Lasting Change Wellness and me at Coach You Solutions. Hope to see you or talk to you soon. See you next week.
Great. Thanks for coming.